Business storytelling is relatively a new topic in the sense that it was not something that was taught when I was doing my MBA. But increasingly, it has gained a lot of importance, and people have realized that it is a must. And as a result, today, most B schools have this as part of their curriculum. There are a lot of life coaches, there are a lot of mentors who do courses on this. There's a plethora of information that you can find on YouTube about it, which shows how people are realizing how important it is. I, however, want to put a disclaimer here and say that I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be an expert on storytelling in business, but I am one of those few people who have used storytelling extensively in my 22 years of career, and I was using it even without realizing it initially. And I think for whatever success I achieved as a salesperson during my first 14 years as in sales, it was a lot to do with storytelling, and I didn't even realize that at that point of time. So what you're going to listen to today is basically not an expert talking about a topic, but it is basically an amalgamation of all the experience that I have had with this subject over the last 22 years. And when I talk about sales, I just want to add a little bit over here. I'm just digressing from the topic a little, but you ask any kid, कोई बचपन में नहीं कहता मुझे बड़े होकर sales वाला बनना है. Everybody wants to be an engineer or an architect or a doctor or whatever nowadays. So there are influencers. Kids want to be influencers, content creators, you name it, and but nobody says I want to grow up and become a salesperson. I stumbled upon sales. And it was like falling in love at first sight. I have thoroughly enjoyed my stint in sales, mainly because of, I think, 2-3 reasons. One is, of course, that I am an extrovert. I like meeting people. I like going out, and I'm not the type to sit in a 9-to-5 job inside an office. I would like to go out, talk to people, meet people, and everything. That was, of course, that was one minor reason. The major, big, important main reason was also that I love making money. And there is no other profession or department in any company which makes money like the sales teams do. So why not? Why not? If you have to spend your initial 10, 14, 15 years of life making money, why not sales? The third and the most important reason was that once I started doing sales, I started loving it. I started enjoying it. The entire rush that comes, the entire high that you achieve when you close a deal, it just doesn't go away. It keeps happening with every deal. It's not as if the first deal will give you a high and the second won't, or the third won't. It was like a kick that you get every time you close a deal. You don't need any other addiction. This is the perfect addiction in life, because every time you go out, you convince someone to your point of view, you get a deal that you have enjoyed closing, you come back with that, yes, I did it, that rush that comes. And that is the reason why I would want people to enjoy doing what they're doing. So this is the reason why I'm bringing out these experiences, because I hope that, if you're feeling that rush, if you're enjoying it, believe you, it's not going away. You may feel it will go away in a 10, 15 years. It won't. With every deal, you will feel only better and a higher rush or a bigger rush. So enjoy it if you can, because that's the best way to do a job, by enjoying it. Now, coming to the topic of the day, if you guys have noticed, I have highlighted and made it big and italics and bold, two words on this screen, which is storytelling and business. And the reason for that is that these two words to most people would seem very contrarian, right? What do you think when you think about storytelling? When the word storytelling comes in front of you, the first thing that comes to your mind is romance and mystery and Agatha Christie's and Game of Thrones and Harry Potter's, when you think about business, what do you think? The first thing that comes to your mind is targets, revenues, cost, processes, governance, graphs, and data, right? So two very, very contrarian words. So how do they both work together? How do they both come and work together is what we're going to talk about today. Now, what happens when we go out for any business pitch or a sales negotiation? We go out with a strategy and we go out with an assumption. The strategy is, I'm going to back everything that I'm going to say today with logic, with facts, with data. And if I am being logical and reasonable and factual, then the assumption is that the client cannot refute what I'm saying. And he will have to decide in my favor because I'm being logical, because I'm being reasonable. So his decision also has to be logical and reasonable and in my favor, right? But that doesn't happen, would it? If it happened, then every sales pitch which was logical, factual, and reasonable would close. But it doesn't, right? So why is that? Why is decision making? Why is that? Because is decision making logical? Well, decision making is not considered logical, at least by this gentleman over here. This is Portuguese American neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, and he did an actual study of people with damage to the emotion generating part of their brain. And what he realized was that while they had a very fairly normal, regular life and their day-to-day life was not affected by anything, they definitely lacked the ability to take decisions. So much so that they could not choose between whether they wanted to have chicken or turkey for dinner. Because what happens is that at the very point of taking a decision, it is the emotions that choose. How many times you have come out of a meeting saying that, yaar, aaj na ye banda ghar se ladkar aaya tha. Because what he's feeling at that moment when you are making a pitch or a presentation is what is going to affect the way he's going to evaluate your pitch. What his emotions are at that moment when you're talking to him or pitching to him is going to make him decide or make him choose how he's going to evaluate your pitch. So emotions are very important in a sales pitch. Now, the choice is between whether the emotions are going to be what he wants to feel or whether you are going to control the narrative. Are you going to influence his emotions at the time when the pitch is happening? Will you be able to control the narrative to that extent is how we'll decide how things go. So the important part is to build emotions in your pitch in a subtle manner. It's not like, it's in a subtle manner. And how do you do that? That is where storytelling comes in, because storytelling is a very, very emotional, a very high emotional stimulant. And you can use storytelling by controlling the narrative, by making the person feel things that you want him to feel towards you, your product, or your service. Why? Because emotions are not because these are things that so what happens is how do emotions work? Let's see. For example, emotions are generally, storytelling is generally audiovisual. So when you're reading a book and or you're listening to something or you're watching something, your brain is going to immediately mirror that emotion. So when you are reading Agatha Christie novel, you suddenly start thinking that I'm going to crack this novel before the end. Don't you all do that? Like when you're reading I don't know what are the contemporary mystery, Agatha Christie ke time kyun, but if you read a mystery novel, if you read a novel, you suddenly start thinking, I am the detective and I'm going to solve the mystery even before I reach the end and the author discloses who the murderer was. Similarly, it works both ways. You're feeling sad, you listen to a sad song. You are listening to a sad song and you start feeling sad. Why? Because when storytelling is happening in any format, whether it is reading or through an audio or through a visual context, immediately whatever you are experiencing gets mirrored by your brain as your own emotions. So this is what you have to use to control the narrative of your pitch and make the target audience start thinking the way you want or feeling the way you want them to feel. Right? So now how does that happen? So how does that happen in business storytelling, right? Business storytelling is not random storytelling. It's not like, you go for a meeting and you're like, kuch bhi bolna shuru kar diya ki, something random like, aaj hamare ghar mein ye hua tha, mummy ne papa ko ye kaha, ye sabzi bani. We are not talking about that. We are talking of very specific storytelling, which is going to add value to the idea, service, or product that you are pitching or presenting. Your story has to add value to that. Because why? Because your story is trying to develop an emotional empathy and affinity with your target audience. You suddenly want him to think like you want him to think. You want him to feel what you want him to feel. And that is where you use business storytelling to make your pitch more relatable, to make it more memorable. Because pitches cannot be, because he is getting exposed to, but I mean, today in the startup industry, investors are exposed to a pitch a minute, and I'm not kidding. No, maybe I am kidding. Maybe not pitch a minute, maybe pitch a day or pitch in 2 days, one pitch in 2 days. Now, how, with the kind of bustling startup industry we have in India and how the ideas are coming out from everywhere, how will the investor decide where he wants to go? Where does he want to put his money? Only the pitch or the idea that remains relatable and memorable to him is going to get his attention, because अच्छे business ideas तो बहुत है, but पैसा उतना ही है. So it is the memorable and the relatable ones which gets the attention of the person and which stay in the person's mind. Now, I will move to telling you about what a story entails. What does a story have? Every story has a few characters, and then it has a conflict or a problem, and then there is a resolution. Because आप जब तक दर्द नहीं दिखाओगे तब तक आप उसकी दवा नहीं दे सकते. So only when there is a conflict, there is an opportunity that comes in. So if there is a conflict or in the market, you will come up with a opportunity to solve that conflict or solve that conflict. And so all these three things are important. The most important being the conflict or the resolution. People think कि characters important है. नहीं, कोई भी film के अंदर hero heroine सिर्फ से काम नहीं चलता. नहीं तो every Shah Rukh Khan film would be a hit. Every Salman Khan film would be a hit. It's not just the characters, it's also the conflict and how it is resolved. अगर पहले ही सीन में शाहरुख खान को अमरीश पुरी ने कहा होता कि जा बेटा जा, तू मेरी दुकान से बियर भी ले जा और सिमरन को भी ले जा, तो कोई DDLG नहीं बनती. अगर एक था राजा एक थी रानी, दोनों मर गए, खत्म कहानी, तो कहानी खत्म है. But the moment you have a conflict, there is a yearning, there is suddenly a resolution, you have a story which becomes a super hit and stays forever in the minds of people who were not even born when the story came out, right? So these three elements need to be very important in every story, and not just in fiction, not just in movies, not just in books, but also in businesses. And that is what we will try to decide today, how we can go about it. Now, in a business, how do we set up our story? How do we do it? How do we set up our story? Once upon a time, what? We are not going to go and suddenly start talking about to our investor or our customer or our employee ki, yaar, ek time pe aise hua tha. No, there is a Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, which you have to inbuilt in your story. And it comes very, don't think that ye bahut sara kuch hai, ye bahut natural hota hai. And I'll give you examples of that. First step is to establish context. And we have a very important and very fancy word that we use nowadays, which is known as market gap. What is the gap in the market which is creating a problem? And then you come in as the hero with your product and say, मैं इस gap को cover करूंगा, मैं इस problem को solve करूंगा with my product. So the market gap, the context setting needs to start from there. Even in a book, if you read, does it immediately start with the problem? No, it first gives you, those first 2 chapters, you have the context setting happening where you are like, there is this orphan who lives with his parents, with his uncle and aunt who abuse him and mistreat him. And then slowly you have Harry Potter happening, right? So we have the problem, we have the context setting happen, then we see the problem. What is his problem? He has magical things happening to him all the time and he can't understand them. And then there is a resolution which happens where slowly the story builds and he understands who he is and everything, right? So we need to first establish the context. Now, before I move anywhere forward, this is very, very important thing that I'm going to say next, which is nothing will work. Nothing, absolutely nothing will work, including storytelling, if there is one very important thing you have not done, and which is you have not done your homework. If you have not put in the hard work and the effort to know your product, know your market, know your target audience, know your competition, know everything there is to know everything about what you are doing, selling, pitching, nothing is going to work. Do whatever you want to do. But homework ke bagair, market research ke bagair, knowledge ke bagair, you can't spin any tales. There has to be that, it is very, very important to have that in place first and foremost, which is market research. Knowledge. And in our times, we didn't, I was in my 20s and mobile phones came. So we didn't even know, we didn't have LinkedIn's and we didn't have social media, we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything to know about a person or to do market research. Most of the time our market research was going to the library or talking to our uncle and aunties or our teachers and our mentors. You guys don't even have to move for a minute to get so much information you want to. And I still go into meetings with people not coming to meet me who don't even know how to spell my name or to, or to pronounce my name. And it's so irritating. And I'm like, isko to main nahi dungi, business try kisi ko bhi de do. So, you don't do your homework, you're going to suffer. It's as simple as that is how I'm going to put it. So, and you have so much access. All you have to do is go read up about it on LinkedIn. Who are you going and meeting? What is his background? I have so many times gone and met founders who are acting all, acha, India. I mean, there is not something that you can deny in any part of the world that women find it tougher to go and break ice when they go for meetings. Sometimes they find it easier also. I'm not being sexist here, but so many times I go for a meeting and the founder is acting all, or the person I'm talking to is acting all, and then I would have done my homework and I'm like, oh, are you from the 99 batch of DPS Puram? I know someone who knows you. And suddenly the meeting changes. Just because I went to LinkedIn and I saw where he went to school, where he went to his college, what has he done, what is his background, do we have common mutual friends? There is something that you can use from there to build a story, to break the ice. So please do your homework. And again, product, I'll give you examples of where market research is so important about your product before to build stories. But the point I'm trying to make is I spent a couple of minutes over here, but this was so important. Don't try to do anything without doing research, without doing market research, without doing your homework. So now that you have established the context, presented the problem, you have to provide a resolution. Let's go deep into each one of these things and learn how to do each. Now, what is context setting? What do we mean by context setting or uncovering the problem or creating the problem? Or I won't say creating. I would say that either there already exists a problem that you're going to solve, or you have to uncover it for them. Because 99% of the time, even the person you're pitching to does not even realize he has a problem that you can solve. He doesn't even know that there is a gap that exists. So you have to not just educate, but sometimes uncover it for him, right? So what is it that is not right with the current scenario? Why is it not enough? Why was cash not enough? Why did we need credit cards? For example, why was going to traditional banks and standing in queues to get checkbooks or getting your passbooks updated not enough? Why did we need neo banking? Why was traditional lending not enough? Why did we need peer-to-peer lending? Or why was Shah Rukh Khan not happy? Why did he need Simran? Right? So what is it that is not enough about the current scenario? I mean, and sometimes, as I said, the person does not even know what is he missing. He will like, yeah, मैंने अभी 3 साल पहले ये मशीनरी जर्मनी से इंपोर्ट की थी, 13 करोड़ रुपए खर्च किए थे. The machinery is perfectly fine, working beautifully. My customers are happy. My client is happy. My bosses are happy. Why the hell will I want to change my current machinery and buy your machinery and spend another 20 crores on it? And then you have to show him the math about how much electricity he's paying on the current machinery and how much he can save by not doing that. Because you have done your market research. Had you not done your market research, you would have not been able to judge that जो उसने खरीद रखा है उसमें क्या problem है और तुम्हारे solution उस problem को कैसे solve करना है. So uncovering the problem will never happen if you have not done your market research properly. This is where your market research becomes the most important thing, to find out the yearning or the gap that exists in the market which you are going to. That दर्द जिसकी आप दवा लेकर आ रहे हो वो यहाँ पर होता है. ये दर्द मैंने अच्छे से समझा. So what happens after you have uncovered the problem? Now you have to create possibilities in his mind. What is the world going to look like when the problem, the current scenario, which was not enough, how are you going to bridge that gap? So my current machinery is doing really well, but every time the bill comes, I get a minor heart attack. And what am I offering you? I'm bridging the gap and offering you a solution where you're upgrading to an equally good or maybe better machinery with better quality, which will make your client happy, but you will get a 3 times reduction in bill and you will not get a heart attack. And suddenly you're picturing a world where Shah Rukh Khan is Simran. Suddenly you're picturing a world where all the problems are getting resolved. And that picture needs to be created. Sir, हमने जब as I was mentioning Fairsen.com, I did I was very lucky working for a startup at that time in Indian industry, and that too it's such a big startup. And there we used to do sales training, and we used to talk about how sir fixed deposits से भी तो return मिल रहा है, सर 6-8% आपको fixed deposit से मिल रहा है, सोचो अगर 12% मिल रहा होगा, सर रिस्क तो है, वो तो स्टॉक मार्केट में भी है, बट अगर उसी सेम रिस्क के अंदर आपको 4% एक्स्ट्रा मिल रहा है तो क्या बुरा है, right? So now you're suddenly creating the problem and an image of how that problem can become, or how that situation that was not enough for him is going to become bigger and better. So paint a picture in the mind, and every story does not has to be like Raja Rani characters and everything. Basically it is a problem and a solution that you are giving through your examples, through your stories and everything. Now once you have done this, don't wait till the end to address challenges that you think is going to be running in the mind of your investor or your customer or your target audience. Put yourself in his shoes and socho ki main iski jagah baitha hota and I was being pitched the same product, service or idea, what would be going on in my mind? He might be thinking that everything is fine, I might be reducing my electricity bill and everything, but why should I buy it from him? His competition is offering me that same product for 10% less. Because you have done your market research and you know what your competition is doing. And you know what are the thoughts and challenges that can go in the mind of your customer, because you have done your market research and you know what all is he exposed to. I mean, it is like one of our friends has a house in one of DLF's very premium property on Golf Course Road. So he was once telling me the story about some guy from who real estate agent who was trying to pitch a property to him. He's loaded money, puts money in real estate all the time. And he's telling me, वो आया मेरे पास, मुझे DLF की प्रॉपर्टी बेचता जा रहा है, मैंने उसको बोला तू कौन सी प्रॉपर्टी बेच रहा है यार, तू बता, तो समझा मेरे को, तो उसने समझाया सारा सब कुछ, and it's like, well, I already have 2 flats there. Forget about that. My brother works in DLF only. I get a discount from there also. Why would I buy your property? Because and this is the public information. Anybody who would go, if I am getting a chance to go and pitch a real estate to this guy, I would never go and pitch a DLF property to him. I would pitch a MR property, IREO property, any other property, but not a DLF, because this guy already knows everything about DLF with his brother staying there. Because nobody has bothered to do market research. And it's open knowledge, it's open information. You're going and pitching to a guy, get to know him and get to put yourself in his shoes and think, isko kya pata hai jo mujhe nahi pata, iske paas kya exposure hai jo mere paas nahi hai. Is he going to think of that challenge? Is he going to think of that? Is he going to think of that, and how I'm going to counter it? Yeah, my competition is offering you a discount, you'll get it at 10% lower, but I'll give you a 3-year warranty. He will not. He cannot. I know he cannot. And say it with confidence. Half the game is won with confidence, because you have done your market research and you know your facts are right. कई बार तो झूठ भी कॉन्फिडेंस से बोलो तो सच बन जाता है. तो आपने अगर मार्केट रिसर्च की हुई और सच बोल रहे हो तो फिर तो बिल्कुल कॉन्फिडेंस से बोलो, सर वो दे ही नहीं सकता आपको 1 ईयर की 3 ईयर की वारंटी, मैं दे सकता हूँ. वो 1 साल के बाद भाग जाएगा, आप वो 5% डिस्काउंट का क्या करोगे जब मशीनरी के पार्ट्स चेंज करने होंगे? तब मेरी याद आएगी कि मैं आपको 3 ईयर की वारंटी दे रहा हूँ. So have that kind of confidence and address the challenges or the questions that are going in the mind of your target audience before they come and become a demon, before they become too big. Don't let the villain become a demon. Fight the villain head on. Now you have done your context setting, you have given him your solution, you have explained your solution to him, you have tried to match all the challenges that you think that person is going to face. Now is the time for what? Now is the time for the final battle, the climax scene, where you are going to go for the kill. जहाँ लड़ाई बिल्कुल टॉप पे पहुंच चुकी है कि जहाँ पे कौन जीतेगा. So this is where you need to bring in your entire arsenal. Don't leave anything at home now. Just get everything on the table. Boss, these are the deliverables I can give. This is the better future that I can give you. This is how I'm going to help you get a better solution to your problem. Yes, I know that existing changing machinery is a time-consuming, costly affair. You will need to shut down you will need to shut down the floor for a couple of hours, maybe 4-5 hours. You will need to put in a lot of capex to cover the cost. But sir, I will ensure that your floor does not get affected for more than 2 days. I will make sure that the machinery does not gets installed within a few hours. Whatever you can actually commit. Only commit what you can do. Don't commit. Yeah, this is another problem. So I was very recently talking to was sitting in a founder pitch, market gap ke bare mein discussion ho rahi thi, and she goes on, she comes on and talks about healthcare for elderlies at home. You know how a lot of nuclear families are coming up, kids are not living with their parents, they are working abroad or working in other towns, but they love their parents, they have the money to spend, they want to spend money on their parents, but they want to provide them with the best healthcare. Parents don't want to go and stay in home, in outside their homes, in old age homes or in hospitals. They would want the best healthcare at home. Beautiful, brilliant context setting and problem setting. Then comes the tech demo. And I bet yeah, everything is being spoken about except elderly. I'm like, what? Where is that product which is going to target elderlies and provide them with home care at home? Where is that product? And then that tech demo gets over and that product doesn't come. And I asked her, I said, where is that? What you were talking about? And she's like, नहीं वो हम ना third phase में launch करेंगे. I'm like, बहन तो फिर third phase पे ही बात करना था ना इसके बारे में. Don't talk about problems that you cannot solve. Don't create context that you cannot solve. Don't commit that you cannot deliver. That is very important, because these things, like, don't come to me and say आपने कहा था story बिक जाएगा. Please, ये सब चीजें करके आओगे तो कुछ नहीं बिकेगा. ठीक है? So don't blame me later. Storytelling is not about selling a product which does not exist, selling a service which does not exist, selling a solution that does not exist. So where does storytelling work, right? For me, so I would not say that it just works for these things. For me, storytelling has worked for everything possible, but I feel it best works when you use it in at these three levels in your pitch. And don't spend too many hours on storytelling. It has to be subtle. Second, it has to be like, you can't just keep doing it throughout your, like, I have tried to do storytelling through this pitch, but I don't know how many minutes I've spent on it, but I hope I have not made it very in your face. Yeah, you have to be subtle. Now, when you're introducing yourself, I think it's the most important point for storytelling, most important time for storytelling, because every person, every customer, every client, every investor is meeting hundreds and thousands of people every day. Why should he remember you? Because remember, business storytelling idea is to get emotional empathy and to remain relatable and memorable. Now, how are you going to remain relatable and memorable? If you introduce storytelling at the time of introducing yourself. Like I said, I went and met that guy. I thought he was being a little cold, maybe a little cold towards me. And suddenly I broke ice with talking about his school, because I had seen on LinkedIn that he had gone to the school from where I had a lot of batchmates. So introduce yourself in a manner which is relatable, which makes you relatable and memorable by using storytelling, like I did today, like I've explained to you, I've done in the past. The second stage where I think storytelling works very well is negotiations. I give this example a lot. It was a very big deal that we were trying to sign up, and my team. This was while I was in the Discovery Networks, and some people, my team manager came to me and said that Shuchi, ma'am, वो हो नहीं रहा, वो बहुत दुखी कर रहा है, and the manager on the other end is making it very tough to close the deal. We have been negotiating the last 1 week. It's very difficult, and we need you to step in. I said, ऐसा करो, उसके boss के साथ meeting fix करो, let's go. I start talking to him, and I just generally keep talking about all other clients that we are, all other big value clients similar to his stature. So not कि मतलब कोई छोटू मोटू, but like talking about, for example, if I'm pitching to say Samsung, I'm talking to him about similar stature clients, like say an ITC or a Nokia or a Apple or whatever. So I mean, big clients. We're talking about big clients. So I was talking to him about similar stature clients. I was telling him that client is completely exclusive with us, and we give him these value additions. We give them these vouchers. We put them invites. Send them invites to our events. We put their spots as the first spot. If we don't have paid spots, we put this spot as the first spot. And I'm talking about everything other than his work or his business or his deal. And then suddenly, in those days, media launch parties used to be the big thing. I'm talking about early 2000, no, mid to late 2000s. उस time पर अभी ये बाकी चीजें इतनी बड़ी नहीं हुई थी ना, influencer marketing and all that. ना COVID हुआ था and all that. So उस time पे media was a big market at that time. I mean, media launch parties were the thing that you talk about. And the network I worked for, they were known for their launch parties. We used to have every celebrity, international celebrity flown to India. We used to have the best of food, music, anything on our launch parties, and it was a very exclusive invited, only by invite kind of an affair. So I told him, I told him वो client को भी हमने invite भेजा है, वो client को भी invite भेजा है, वो client को भी invite भेजा है, वो client exclusive है, वो भी आ रहा है. There was a launch party which was coming, and I was like, वो बातें करते रहे, चाय पीते रहे, सर उनके लिए भी ये कर रहे हैं, उनके लिए भी वो कर रहे हैं, वो ऐसे बातें कर आके चाय वाय पी, and I'm like, okay sir, thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure team will close the deal between them. I am looking forward to, last thing I said to him is, I am looking forward to meeting you and your wife at the launch party. That's the only thing I said, and I walked out. बाहर निकले, and my team is like, मैम आप क्या करके आए हो, आपने क्लोज डील के बारे में बात तक नहीं की, वो 500 रुपए के पीछे लटके हुए हैं मैनेजर उनके, आपने तो मैनेजर से बात ही नहीं की वो डील की. मैं अच्छा ठीक है छोड़ो, देखते हैं, नहीं आ जाए दोबारा आ जाएंगे मिलने, नहीं हुई तो. And we walked out. Within 2 hours, their manager called my manager. It took 3 days to close the deal. Nothing happens without negotiations. We gave a little, they gave a little, but the deal got closed. Why? Because now it was the job of their manager to ensure that his general manager gets an invite with his wife to the launch party. And he knew that invite won't come till he closes that deal. So there was an entire storytelling that was happening here in the negotiations. But the idea was to create some kind of FOMO. So this is what worked here. Something else might work somewhere else. But what the point I'm trying to say is that storytelling is not always like ek raja, ek rani and all this. The storytelling is how you use the information you have about the client or the market or the product or the services or the market gap that we discussed, and use it in your pitch. That is business storytelling. A third area where I feel it really helps, and I would like to give an example on, is how you resolve the concerns that come up in the deal. A lot of time, it is the concerns that stop the deal from getting closed, because there are challenges in the mind of this person. You have gone and did everything you could do, but आप उसके challenges को overcome नहीं कर पा रहे. So there was this, very interesting story that, every time we would, there would be this client who would say, I'm facing this problem, I'm facing that problem. And I would go, sir, actually, मैं जो आप problem face कर रहे हो ना, we have a client in Lucknow who faces the same problem, and उसने ये किया था to resolve his problem. So उसने आप ये जो प्रॉब्लम है ना, उसको लखनऊ वाले ने ना ऐसे सॉल्व किया था. तो वो आपको जैसे प्रॉब्लम हो रही है ना अपने मैनेजर को जाके पिच करने में, तो उसने ऐसे जाके अपने मैनेजर को पिच किया तो सॉल्व हो गया. आपको जैसे प्रॉब्लम हो रही है टू जस्टिफाई दैट 100 रुपी हाइक, उसने अपने मैनेजर को जाके ऐसे 100 रुपी हाइक जस्टिफाई किया था, तो वो हो गया उसका काम, उसकी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो गई. अब ऐसा मैंने कुछ नहीं बोला जो मैं उसको 25 बार पहले नहीं बोल चुकी हूँ टू रिजॉल्व हिज कंसर्न. But what have I done by creating this client, by talking about this client in Lucknow who was facing the same problem, is relate, emotional connect. Suddenly he's not the only person in the world facing this problem. There was a guy sitting in Lucknow, there is a guy sitting in Lucknow who's facing the same problem that he's facing. तो वो अकेला नहीं है इस दुनिया में, एक और बंदा है जो सेम प्रॉब्लम फेस कर रहा है जो ये फेस कर रहा है. सडनली वो दुनिया में अकेला नहीं है, तो उसकी इमोशनल कनेक्ट आ गया एक बंदे के साथ जो लखनऊ में बैठा है. अच्छा तो उसने क्या किया, अच्छा उसने ऐसे किया, अच्छा मैं भी ऐसे करके देखता हूँ. सडनली आपका जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट सेटिंग हो रहा था, सडनली जो आपको लग रहा था ये प्रॉब्लम तो इनसरमंट, आपको मतलब क्लाइंट को लग रहा था कि ये प्रॉब्लम तो इनसरमाउंटेबल है, दिस प्रॉब्लम कैन नॉट बी मेट, द चैलेंज आई एम फेसिंग कैन नॉट बी एडजस्टेड, इवन आफ्टर आई हैव banged my head against a wall 10 times and explained कि sir you can do it this way to solve the problem, you can do this to solve the problem. Even after I've tried to convince him 20 times, नहीं हो रहा. लेकिन the moment I tell him there is a client in Lucknow facing the same problem and he did this to solve it, suddenly yes, now it is possible to do it because there is someone else sitting in Lucknow in my position who I can relate to, who's facing this problem and he solved it by this. Right? So this is how a lot of time I used to resolve concerns when it came to closing deals. Now, if you would ask me that if storytelling is all about, business storytelling is all about emotions, then what is the logic of data? What is the importance of data and logic? The importance of data and logic comes here because your storytelling cannot be based on, if it is not authentic, it may be a little figment of imagination. It can be. I'm not saying कि हर चीज आपकी एकदम बिल्कुल होगी, but कहीं ना कहीं जो स्टोरी टेलिंग में deliverables बोल रहे हो, they have to be based, they have to be authentic, they have to be based on the truth, they have to be based on some data and facts. It has to be possible that his electricity bill will reduce by 3x. You can't build that story and then his electricity bill continues to be at that rate, right? So there has to be truth, data and facts behind your storytelling. Of course, there can be a figment of imagination, but it cannot be unauthentic. It has to be based on truth. But truth alone is not enough, right? Truth alone is not enough, because if the truth is not exciting, if it is not grasping, if it is not gripping, if it is not told with एक घूसा इधर से आया, इधर से खून निकल रहा है, शाहरुख खान वो भाग रहा है, वो हाथ आगे बढ़ा रहा है, वो दूसरा हाथ अपना डाल रही है, वो अंगूठा दिखाता है अमरीश पुरी, वो ड्रामेटिक्स नहीं आए तो वो एक्साइटिंग नहीं है ना, तो फिर वो स्टोरी में कुछ दम नहीं है, वो मतलब मजा नहीं आया. So as I put this quote over here, nobody has told stories by just showing graphs and charts and reports, right? There has to be some amount of excitement, some amount of gripping that you need to add to your storytelling. And that is why your visual presentations have to be very important, right? Whenever you are sitting and making your pitches, please put in, so if it is a verbal pitch, put in some time in terms of how you are going to speak, what you're going to say. Even after 22 years to make this present, and I have done this presentation once before, still the second time to do it, I've spent 3-4 days going through, revising, telling what I want to talk about, thinking what I talk about. I've made notes. See, I've made notes. I'm not kidding. I've made notes about what I'm going to say. So do your homework about what you're going to speak about, right? And then if you're going to make a note, make a deck, try to tell the story in a very succulent, beautiful manner. Make the story succulent and beautiful. And I'm going to give you an example of how you can do that. You don't need anybody else's help to do this. You can do it on your own, right? I'm just giving an example because this is something that I did last year, and it's a sector which is very close to my heart. I'm very strongly involved with mental health, and I feel there's not enough done in India about it. So I'm very close to this. And Listen is a beautiful company, wonderful company, two very wonderful founders who are doing a lot of work in mental health solutions, and they came to us with a nice brief, with certain brief. It was for an investor deck. But one of the things that we discussed about was that a lot of investors face problems in trying to understand the potential of the market. Because in India, mental health is so kept swept under the carpet that who is the target audience? What is the potential of the market? Will you be able to make a difference? Are things that investors don't even bother to see through a whole deck before they want to know all this. They want to know this even before they put in the effort of seeing the whole deck. So this was one of the very important briefs that we needed to tackle. And how did we do this? Look at this slide. This is the first slide of the deck. The first slide was setting context, identifying the market gap, identifying the problem. What are we talking about here? We're talking about two people, Sanvi and Vikram. Sanvi wants to get pregnant, has been trying IVF, but is not conceiving. She thinks it's a physical problem, but is the stress and anxiety impacting her ability to succeed with the IVF? Vikram has been putting on a lot of weight unnecessarily. What action did he take? He went on a strict diet and joined the gym. But what was actually the problem is that he was a chief caregiver to a family member who was going through a chronic disease. All the stress and the anxiety was driving him to stress eating disorder, which is why he was gaining weight. And the actual problem why he was gaining weight has not been addressed. Everything else has been addressed. The physical elements have been addressed. Now, what have we done with this storytelling? What was the investor facing the problem? What was the brief? The brief said investor does not understand the target audience. Now, suddenly the investor can identify a Sanvi in his life or Vikram in his life, can understand how people have mental health issues which are underlying, but because everybody has a Vikram or a Sanvi in their lives. I'm very sure, even without knowing, you would also know of people who are having physical ailments which are driven by mental health, right? And the investors would also know of them. So the moment we put a context, the problem की target audience कौन है हमें पता ही नहीं, वो solve हो जाती है, right? एक target audience suddenly के साथ आप identify और relate कर पा रहे हैं investor. अब हमने इसी पे नहीं कहानी को छोड़ दिया, हमने इसको बड़ा करा, क्योंकि तीसरी problem क्या थी, market का potential क्या है नहीं पता. The investor keeps asking us कि market potential क्या है, तो हमने कहा कि भैया problem ये है, और ये problem छोटी नहीं है. There are 300+ million Indians who are suffering and they don't even know that they are suffering. And this is how the market is growing up. 80% are suffering from mental health that are unaware. Jinko awareness hai bhi, unko they are not getting the right treatment. 83, there has been a three times increase in after the pandemic in mental health issues. So we suddenly made created Vikram and Sanvi into an entire market scenario, an entire market TAM. So of course TAM here that's likely, but एक market problem solve कर दी हम. अब उसके अंदर हमने क्या किया, challenges क्या face कर रहे हैं, what are the challenges? भैया there is awareness तो है ही नहीं, awareness है तो acceptance नहीं है, बंदा मानने क्यों नहीं तैयार कि I have a mental health problem. Forget about your family accepting, because there's such a social stigma attached to it. Forget about the family accepting that the person has a mental health problem. He himself is not willing to accept he has a mental health problem. Now अगर कोई acceptance, if the acceptance comes also, there is limited access to the right mental health professional. And if there is access, there is low affordability because it's very expensive. Imagine how much their psychiatrists charge anywhere between 2,000 to 4,000, 5,000 rupees. And then there is no guarantee because it's a mental health. It's not like diabetes ki goli khaoge to sugar kam ho jayegi, ya blood pressure goli khaoge to blood pressure kam ho jayega. It's mental health. So there is that lack of assurance you have whether you will be itna paisa kharch karke tum theek ho jaoge ki nahi ho jaoge. So we have tackled the villain head on. We have tackled the syndrome, that is the challenge, head on. And then what we have done is introduce the solution. He's saying, listen has the answers to all your problems because he is handling this problem through awareness, through acceptance, through anonymity, through access, through creating affordability, and through creating assurance. This is how storytelling happened to introduce the client, solve the problems he was facing with the investors who weren't even willing to listen to him for the reasons I told you, and inbuilt the storytelling, created a context, created a problem, described the problem, highlighted the challenges, and introduced the solution within the first 4 slides. We didn't wait for the 5th slide. This was done within the first 4 slides of a 30-page deck. Now we have the attention of the investor for the next 26 slides, right? So does the same story work for everyone? No, it does not. No, it does not. You have to tell a different story to depend. Your story has to depend upon the kind of target audience you're talking to. You can't speak the same language to everybody, and your product or the story also has to depend upon your story also has to depend upon what you're selling. For example, I'm giving an example. For example, if I was going to sell a pillow. So I was doing this for a sleep aid company. I was doing a sales training for a sleep aid company, and I was like talking to the salesperson. I was saying, "कैसे बेचोगे? पिल्लो कैसे बेचोगे? Humidifier में और पिल्लो को बेचने में क्या difference आना चाहिए?" So there is, every product has to be told in a different manner. Now pillows, if I was to tell a story about pillows, I would probably use an example of my husband or a person I met in the gym. You know, he has a lot of neck pain. He needs a comfortable pillow to rest his head on, which supports his neck. So he used this product and he found so much relief, and he's now being able to sleep properly. And, you know, I'll talk about that. When I'm talking about the humidifier, I'll change the target audience and say, you know, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law have breathing issues, you know, especially when dry season comes, or when it is when the air conditioning is on in the winter season. Humidify, they find it very difficult to breathe. So humidifier, if I switch it on in their room for a few hours, it really gives them a lot of relief. Now, when I'm talking about, say, a white noise cancelling device, what will I use? I'll probably use my nephew and his who's newly become a father. I was saying, you know, my nephew and his wife, they just got a white noise cancelling device because their kid is not able to sleep at night. So they put this white noise cancelling device in his room. Now the kid is sleeping better. The parents are feeling better. They are also getting a full night's sleep. Both get up early in the morning and feel rejuvenated. So I have changed the story. I have changed the characters. I have changed the context. I have changed the problem with every product that I'm selling, and with the target audience I'm selling to. So this is very important. Don't try to put the same story across to everybody else. Now, lastly, I would say that very important thing is that don't think मेरे में वो capabilities नहीं है storytelling करने की, क्योंकि मुझे तो मैं तो extrovert नहीं हूँ. Of course, it helps if you're an extrovert, but it's a skill. It's a learnable skill, and you absorb these stories from the environment around you. this Lucknow story that I love telling about, my client in Lucknow, it's not an original by me. When I initially started working in Times of India, one of my first bosses used to do it. And she would go with, I would go with her on meetings, and she would always talk about this Lucknow में मेरा एक client है जिसके साथ. And I was like, एक दिन मैंने पूछ लिया, मैम ये लखनऊ में कौन सा client है जिसके साथ ये problem है? कोई नहीं है बेटा. So लखनऊ में कोई client नहीं था, but वो client आज तक जिंदा है क्योंकि पहले वो use करती थी और अब मैं use करती हूँ उसको. Hopefully आप में से कोई use करेगा अब आगे. So वो but the point is that you will learn to tell stories when you become observant, when you do your market research, when you become observant, when you listen to stories that are happening all around you all the time. And so anybody can be, in my opinion, anybody can be a storyteller. All you need to do is, it's a learnable skill, learn about it, read about it. If you think you still can't do it, there's a lot of information available online. Go and read about it, learn about it. Business storytelling के नाम से research करो, बहुत कुछ निकल कर आएगा. Then one small request I have is, please always be sensitive to your target audience. You're saying a story in front of a woman, or kind of people who are sitting in front of you. There are people, I know this question is going to come, so even before, I don't know what questions will come, but I'm sure one of them will be this, कि मैम मैं क्या करूं अगर कोई ऐसा बंदा है जो बहुत grumpy सा है, स्टोरी जो बिल्कुल to the point प्रोफेशनल है, जिससे मैं स्टोरी टेलिंग कर ही नहीं पा रहा हूँ, उसके साथ मैं कैसे बात करूं? तो you will meet such people, and there is no need to become forcibly tell stories in your, मैंने शुचि ने कहा था स्टोरी टेलिंग करनी है तो मैं तो करूंगा ही. Please judge your audience, be sensitive to your audience. If you think it is not going to work, learn to read the room is what I would say. Learn to read the room. Read the room. If you think it's not going to work, that guy is in a rush, he's in a hurry, don't start telling stories. Use stories subtly, and saying कि लखनऊ में वो client doesn't take too much time. It just makes it relatable. So use stories, smaller, subtle, not so obvious storytelling if you meet a person like that. But be sensitive. To succeed in sales, it's not just about being an extrovert or introvert. A lot of sales skills are more, in my opinion, based on market research, homework doing, like I have been stressing throughout that skills, doing your homework, understanding, grasping situations, reading the room, knowing when to stop, knowing when to go, knowing when to get aggressive, when to not get aggressive. It's not just about being extrovert or introvert. So even introverts can be really good salespeople. So don't let that stop you. Don't let that. I always say half the battle is won when your mind is in a space. I do this so often with my kids. Just a few days ago, my daughter was saying, "Meko ye ho raha hai, mujhe wo ho raha hai, mujhe ye ho raha hai," and I just told her that you basically have some kind of an iron deficiency because of which you're facing all these problems. I'll give you a tablet. Your iron deficiency levels will come back, and you will stop facing these problems. I actually gave her a normal white vitamin tablet, and I told her, "ये खाओगी ना इसके बाद तुम्हारे ये सब ये जो तुमको feel हो रहा है ना ये you feel that you're fatigued and you feel that your mood is not fine, you're getting mood swings and all, everything will go fine." She had that normal tablet, and after 2 hours she said, "Mama, I'm feeling very good." Because the moment you start thinking I'm an introvert, it will start playing in your mind when you go out for meetings. And I assure you, take it from me today, introverts, I have met lots of introverts in my lifetime who are very good salespeople. My own husband is one example. So please go out there with full confidence. As I said, it's the confidence that matters. Even sometimes when you're lying with confidence, it becomes a truth, which I'm not advising you to do. But speak the truth with confidence. Do your homework. Do your market research. Go and talk about what you know with confidence, and you being an introvert would not have an impact. So Google, it's made our life so much easier. Everything is Googleable. So I'll give you an example. Like right now, I'm working for a deck for an investor who is targeting specifically the blue collar economy. Of course, a lot of insights come from the founders themselves because they have done their homework before they've launched the product. But then you need to do a lot of your research also. So I read up a lot of reports by non-government agencies like ENY, PwC, and all. I also read up. Read up government reports from government agencies and all, and I see the difference. I see what is missing, what is not, and then I analyze and see what is the more critical critical problem that needs to be addressed. Because if you try to create too many problems and you don't have you won't have, so then you have to relate it to the problems that you can solve, the problems that you can address. So you have to pick and choose the problems that can be addressed, and then go and set context around them, and then give in your solution. So, for example, I'll give an example. Like under the blue collar economy, there are about 340 million blue collar workers in India. Only 6% have access to credit. Now, these 6% are mainly gig workers who come from organized sectors like Zomato delivery guys or Swiggy delivery guys, and but then there are these huge sector out there of factory workers. They also come under the blue collar economy. They form about 94% of the sector, and they do not have access to credit for multiple reasons. And I can give you a list of at least 100 reasons or at least 50 reasons why they don't get access to credit. But my client, for example, was solving only 10, being able to give credit to people who came under only 10 of those reasons, say. So then I'll focus on those 10 reasons, and I'll build in a story around those 10 reasons, the importance, the context setting and everything, and then introduce my client as the solution. When you're going into a meeting with anybody today, forget about the CXOs. Anybody, they have very limited time. Nobody wants to spend more time than they want to. On the job, it's a very, very difficult environment that you all work in, where we are trying to balance home and work. We are trying to maintain a work-life balance. And so everybody wants meetings to be short and sweet and quick. Storytelling does not mean that you have to make the meeting long. Storytelling means you have to make the meeting interesting. You have to make the meeting make the pitch emotionally relatable, whom you're pitching to. So when I introduced myself, I was talking to you about I spoke to you about me knowing Tarun, right? And why I'm here and whatever, right? I could have spoken about hundreds of other things that I have done. I could have spoken about, I have done blogging, I have done content writing, I have done travel plannings. I have within FAIRS, and when I was working, I did other things than just sales or training, sales training. I could have talked about all that and spent 5 minutes just talking about that, but I did. I chose that one thing that I thought would make me more relatable to you all, because you know where I'm coming from. So storytelling, I mean, I didn't try to drag it. As I said somewhere in the presentation, that time yourself, how many times and seconds that I took to talk about something that I thought would be relatable for all of you, because it will make me seem like a person equally anxious getting into this meeting while talking to all of you. Now, so storytelling does not have to make your meeting long, because nobody has the time to spend that much time with you. We need to use storytelling to make our pitches interesting. When I say problem, how can you solve the problem with a story? You don't need to start off with every time you don't need to start off with the context setting, character building, problem solving and everything. You need to do it subtly throughout the pitch. Throughout the pitch, I have been telling you stories. I have not told you one story and then just dragged it through the pitch. I have used it subtly throughout, put it throughout. So if you have got 15 minutes, you have to take this 15 minutes only to tell your pitch. My suggestion, and as I was showing you my notes, even today, I don't go unprepared in any meeting. I write my notes. I write my time myself. I would have probably done in my lifetime at least 40. I mean, I'm not kidding. I would have probably done at least maybe 1 lakh or 4-5 lakh meetings till date. Because there was a time I used to do 10 meetings a day just for work. Then there are meetings you do for personal reasons, professional reasons, and everything. So I have done a lot of meetings in my life, and I still don't go underprepared or unprepared in a meeting. How you can make it concise? Go prepared. Time yourself, read what you want to say, make notes about what is it that you have to say and what is it that you, even if you don't say it and goes unsaid, it's okay. It is not going to impact your pitch. Prioritize. Which is the 5 things which are priority that I need to speak about my product? Which are the 3 things, even if I don't speak, it's okay. I can let it be, right? What are the 2 things I have to talk about the market where I'm operating? Even if I don't speak the 7 other things, it's okay. So the moment you prioritize from 100 things that you want to talk about, you will come down to 10 things. And then on those 10 things, when you elaborate, you can decide again, prioritize. When I'm elaborating these 10 things, what is it that is more important to talk about than the other? Now focus on that one thing that is more important than the other, depending on the target audience you're pitching to, and then bring it down to another 10 things will become another 1 minute. Instead of spending 2 minutes on those 10 things, you will spend only 1 minute on those 10 things. So you will have 10-minute pitch instead of a 20-minute pitch. So if you're doing your homework, if you are prioritizing the topics that you need to cover, prioritizing the things that you have to talk about, prioritizing the things that you can ignore, timing yourself before the pitch, seeing how much time you're taking, you will be able to make your pitches concise and crisp. I used to go and meet ministers. I have gone and met government ministers so many times when I was working in media sales. And believe me, unke paas bilkul time nahi hota. Well, forget about normal CXOs. Try going and meeting the Minister of Tourism. Try going and meeting the Minister of Tourism in the state tourism ministers and state industry ministers for industry and all. Believe me, they don't have time to give so much time to give. We have to make our pitches more concise. And most of the time, in such situations, it is how you introduce yourself that makes an impact. Storytelling happens with your body language. It happens with the way you dress up, the way you go. The moment you have dressed up well, you go with a lot of confidence, you shake hands with a firm grip. You have started telling a story about yourself, that I'm a confident person. I know what I'm going to speak about. You're nervous, your nervousness, you're shaking, you're not dressed properly, you're conscious about the way you're standing. He will anyways not trust you with what you're going to say. Believe you me, because selling is about confidence building. If you are not confident, then why will he will be confident about you and your product. So practice all this at home. Stand in front of a mirror and practice eye contact, practice how you dress up, how you turn out for a meeting, because your storytelling starts from the way you look and the way you enter the meeting. And then if you have gained his attention over there, he'll give you those 5 minutes extra. I've got many more minutes extra every time I've gone for a pitch. I might have a 15-minute window. I've taken 20 minutes if I needed it, and I've got it. Because I've spoken with so much, I've gone into, I'm not, there were times when I've also messed it up. But I'm just trying to say that there are times when you will go with that kind of an approach and you will succeed. So go with confidence. Say, no, I need 5 more minutes, sir. I'm sorry, I'm stepping up, but I can't finish in 15 minutes. I'll need 5 more minutes. I don't mind. But if he says, I do mind and I do have to go somewhere, I'm not going to just stand there and no, listen to me. And I'm going to say, yes, sir, sorry, I agree that you need more time. Maybe I can come back tomorrow again. Maybe we can meet again. Maybe we can give me another time when I can spend a little more time with you. It's not necessary that your deal will get closed in 1 minute. So that is one. Prepare, homework, prioritize, time yourself, look up how you are, check how you're looking and feeling in the mirror, speak with confidence. All these things will make your pitch more concise, will get the attention of the other person and will help you retain the attention of the other person.